Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Flux of fluxwithit.com. Today I'm just doing a short live stream, and I wanted to explore the HydraSynth as a bass synth, and explore some raw sounds about this thing, as far as the oscillator tone and whatnot. I can see looks like the stream is kind of just now populating, so I'm going to give it a few minutes, and while that's going on, I'm going to just kind of noodle around for a little bit. And if you want to give me some feedback in the live chat about the audio quality, that's always helpful. Let's go ahead and set this up here. Okay. What's up, Ronzi? Alright, so this should transition over here. Okay. Yeah, there's a pretty considerable delay between the OBS stream and what you guys are seeing. So, if I seem a little bit delayed, that's why. I'm just trying to monitor everything. I've got like 10 windows open at a time and all that good stuff. So, bam, right back at you. All right. So, what I've got going on right now is I have the sub Phatty up top here, and HydraSynth down below. And so I literally haven't even explored the two side by side really since kind of early on testing. I compared HydraSynth against a lot of different synthesizers very, very early on in testing. And then after that, after we kind of nailed down a lot of the key fundamentals about it, then it became more about, okay, well, let's make this synth its own synth and how it sounds by itself. So, just now hooking these two up together, I'm kind of, in true form, going to be exploring it myself along with you guys. So we'll have some fun together with this. Let me set my keyboard off to the side a bit here. And Peter, I ate all the dumplings, so you're just gonna have to excuse me on that. So, all right, first things first. One oscillator, saw wave on each unit. And of course, I guess I should quickly. So I'm gonna tap this key a little bit, and hopefully you'll see the delay here. And then watch the waveform display on the HydraSynth. Oop. So you can see whatever kind of latency delay there is audio-wise. Hopefully, I've corrected the majority of any latency that you guys will notice. So the first and foremost is sub Phatty. It has a dark sound to it. It always has. I mean, that's the nature of this synth. The oscillators just sound kind of dark and heavy. It kind of the sub Phatty. I've always felt like the filter never opens all the way up, and it kind of sounds like there's almost like a EQ bass boost on it. That's just how that thing sounds, at least to my ears. And then, of course, when you bring up the resonance, you get a massive bass drop on this one because it's not a Q compensated filter. So now I have the HydraSynth is currently set up with the transistor ladder 24 dB filter on it. So I'll do the same bass drop with that by adding resonance. Now, I will say before I even do this, the resonance will peak out on this. So it will be quite different. So to better emulate that, you would just not turn resonance all the way up on the HydraSynth, because the HydraSynth resonance is a bit more powerful there. So leaving it at about 100, you still have significantly more bass drop out on the sub Phatty compared to the HydraSynth with those filters. Now on the sub Phatty, what you would do for that is you use multi-drive to kind of bring that back up. And that's full multi-drive there. And you get almost back to where the HydraSynth is without that. Now on the HydraSynth, something similar to multi-drive would be in the second page of your filter, you have the drive amount. And oops, I actually had that up. So let me go back. I'm going to start that over because I forgot that I had the filter drive up there. So let's do this again real quick. I don't want anybody freaking out. Okay, so again, the resonance being pulled up on the HydraSynth still does that peaking. So again, about 100 and sub Phatty. So we'll do that. Now, also to kind of emulate a little bit better, a little bit closer here, I'm going to drop the cutoff of the HydraSynth back a little bit because, like I said, the sub Phatty is always dark. It never really sounds like the filter opens up all the way, so I'm going to kind of emulate the same aspect here. Actually, I'll turn the resonance down before I do that. That's really close right there. And again, to me, the sub Phatty, it just sounds like there's like this slight EQ bass boost on it, even on that that raw sound. Now going back to that filter, so I'll do that resonance. So you can tell that's pretty significantly different between the two as far as how they act. There's much more bass loss on the sub Phatty, but the resonance is much more aggressive on the HydraSynth as well. So that's just different. Now, there's different versions of the ladder filter in the HydraSynth, so we can kind of switch that around a little bit, and you can of course do the ladder 12 dB. Let's open this all the way up, take this to about 100. Alright, so I'm going to go back to the 24. What did I just change? Oops. Probably shouldn't have done that. Okay. Oh, no wonder. Sorry about that. I accidentally had pressed the filter 2 button on here, so when I was adjusting these up here, I started adjusting my filter 2, but I just put it in parallel just to get rid of it. And this is controlling filter 1. So about 12 o'clock. And about 12 o'clock. I have a little bit more volume on the sub Phatty right now. Try to match that a little bit better. Okay. It's a little bit closer volume wise now. Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll start doing some resonance filter sweeps, because why not, right? So I had somebody trying to troll my channel a few days ago, trying to say, "Oh, the filters on the HydraSynth are steppy and thin and this and that." Man, that could not be further from the truth. I'm like, if you're gonna troll, you gotta troll with something that's based in some sort of reality, because this is too easy to prove that you're full of it. So I'm putting resonance on both of them right about 12 o'clock, which on HydraSynth would be 64. So if I use the dedicated controls here, let me do that again. Use the dedicated controls so it's a little bit easier on me, and you guys can see the screen and everything. So okay, so now I'll do the same on sub Phatty. So there we have that there's that significant bass loss. There is definitely the major factor there. The other thing that I will say, I love the sub Phatty. I'll be the first person to tell you, it's one of my favorite synthesizers, because it's like super simple and it just sounds great. I love it. The filter on that has, listen to this one. There's like a fuzzy hairiness right here. I'm going to turn the volume up so we get some of that back. The way that saturates is beautiful. I really enjoy that. Now let's do the same here. You get a little bit of that saturation, but it's not quite as, it's a little bit more subtle. Like on this one, it's a little bit more, it just sounds like kind of furry to me. Like you get this fuzziness to it. Now let's push the resonance up on this one just a hair. A little bit more. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of the drive on the HydraSynth. Just a little bit. Drop the resonance back too. I'm going to take it back to the center. 64 is center for that. So now we're getting a little bit more in that territory. I'm going to turn my mic off just to make sure that we're not getting any of the room noise, the room sound of my monitors, kind of making either one of these synths, get cluttered. So I'll turn that off for a minute, and I'm going to kind of just be going back and forth and trying to kind of match the parts that I think are more the sweet spots of the Sub Phatty, which to me are, the way Moog did that kind of aggressive characterization of the Sub Phatty is really dope. So I'm gonna kind of match that, and then I'm gonna play with the multi drive on it, and try to push the resonance into some of the breaking up areas, and we'll see what we do. If I don't want to add any reverb. If I add reverb right now, then you're not gonna hear like the true tone of either synth, and people on YouTube will go nuts. I might get like 10 positive comments, but it's that one negative comment that I wake up to at like 6 a.m. that I'm like, man, you know what? So I'm not going to do that just yet. Maybe towards the end. Yeah, so no stepping in those filters. The only thing you hear there is pulling harmonics, and which is extremely different from a stepping filter. Definitely some major differences here. Again, on the Moog, when you're pushing that resonance, I like setting in these in between harmonic areas where it gets a little bit dissonant. And then on here, we'll do the same. Trying to like set it right in there. see if I can match those harmonics. It's kind of hard to get it like right there. Take the drive back. Bring that multi-drive up. Now I'm going to push the drive up on this more. Let me turn the volume on the HydraSynth down a little bit. I'm doing my best to kind of match volume levels between the two. It's, you know, it's more difficult than it sounds like, you know, when you're doing it live. I'm going to bring this drive all the way back. Now, so let's get into some interesting aspects of it. And I know people are probably going to say, oh, well, I also want to hear how it bounces off of the envelopes and this and that. So, yeah, there's like a billion other things I could show, and we could be here all night doing that. But I don't really have time for that. Really, I don't even have time to be doing this, but whatever. So that's just one of the ladder filters there. Now, the other ladder filter in here is Q compensated of the, you know, of that style. And I just want to show how each filter in this thing is modeled completely different. Like, it's not just like, oh, okay, we took the same model and then tweaked it a little bit here and there. That's not what was done. Like, each filter was completely done differently. The way that Chen did it, and I'm going to have a very in-depth interview with Chen about this that's going to be really interesting, discussing the machine learning program that went into this and all that kind of good stuff. If you've watched any of the other Synth Summit shows, you know I love going deep on that kind of information. So let's take a listen to the quote fat 24 dB filter on here. I'm going to turn this mic off for a second. All right, now I'm going to start bringing in some drive as well. Okay, so you can hear that one will really kind of sing and get interesting with its resonance as well in its own way. So like if you bounce back and forth between those two filters, like so there's the fat 24. Now I'm going to go over to the ladder 24. You can hear the bass drop there. And you'll notice that it just has a slightly different character, not just the bass drop, but the way that the resonance is as well. And then we can go to the MS-21. And here's a little trick that I've discovered with the MS-21. Early on, like when we were doing voicing of this, my comment about this was like, oh, I kind of wanted it a little bit more aggressive. And this also went back to how we were dealing with the thriller filter in here as well, because the thriller was so loud and powerful that it was actually like multiple times louder than the other filters. And so like there was a lot of tweaking that was involved. And one of the things that I noticed was the gain staging into the filter can directly relate to how the filters respond and react. So one nice thing to do is I'm going to drop that oscillator back a bit. We'll take it back to about 90. Now listen to how it reacts when I start messing with it. Shut this mic off. So you get that kind of classic MS-20 style like grit, and it's pretty fun. So and of course I have it in that yeah, definitely some filters have it more than others. I mean so I've kind of mentioned it before. I'll mention it again. The Phat 24 and Phat 12 are basically like the matrix brute. It's the matrix brute filters basically. The 12 and 24 are based on the mini mode ladder filters. So the what was the other thing I was gonna say? Shoot, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, I mean the thriller one when you do this now is a whole other beast. And yeah, take a listen. The way this filter just works with the harmonics and you know with the whole synth is just really powerful and fun. Now technically it's an 18 dB slope. So. All right, so I'll quickly just do another quick thing on here. So I'm gonna go back to the classic ladder 24 filter for a second. All right, and we'll add another oscillator in. I'll bring this up to about 110. These volumes a bit. Yeah, I'm working with a saw wave just basically for the harmonics and also for the simplicity of it, so that you guys can see, you know, parity there, you know. All right, so now I'm quickly just gonna give them both. They're close. They're a little bit off from each other, but you know, um, nothing would ever be close enough for YouTube anyway, right? So let's just give them a bit of envelope, and we'll have some fun with that. So I'm gonna drop the sustain on here on both of these. Give them a little bit of decay. We'll do it like, let's do. And again, this is like the first time I've tried to match these two up in ages. So, um, obviously the envelopes are quite different there. Oh, you know what I should also do? So we'll do this. I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna change the slope on this envelope a bit. Yeah, matching up those envelope curves is a little bit interesting. This is one of those things where once I match like the exponential curve of the envelopes, I'd probably save a preset and like name it just so that I can kind of go back and reference. Oh, what did I have those envelope curves to get that Moog Sub Phatty sound, and then I could go back and reference those. That's just kind of like a nice little thing to remember to do. Definitely getting close there. I'm actually going to give it just a little bit of the analog flavor. There's not a lot of beating that's going on in the Sub Phatty, but there is like that slight detune. So I'm actually just going to give it like a 3, maybe 5. And then I may even, let's detune it just a bit. Just 1. That sounds about closer. I don't have it on legato there, but anyway, so you guys get the point. I'm trying to make these streams a little bit shorter. So that's just a quick little thing for the internet to chew on and write me mean comments about on. Pulse width. I'll do some really I'll do some really quick changes, and yeah, that is a 5th. I tuned the oscillators to a 5th there, obviously. So what I'll do is I'll just do some very quick sound design tricks with the HydraSynth, and then I'll close it out. Okay. So one thing I'll do first and foremost is, because it was asked. So you were asking about pulse width. Who was it? Meta4K was asking about pulse width. Now, pulse width, there's so many different ways you can do pulse width in here. But there's some really goofy, weird things that you can do that are kind of unexpected when it comes to pulse width. And I'll show some of that real quick. So first off, I'm on, I still have the same oscillator setup, but now what I've done is I've turned to pulse width original mode, right? And the dry wet is at 0. I'm going to transition my cameras here so that you can see this a little bit better. Boom. Look at that. I'm so fancy. Okay. So, check this out, right? So when I bring this up, now I can go 100% here, and you're not seeing any change because the depth is at 64, right? So that's like that 50% duty cycle. And you can change pulse width of every type of waveform in here, right? But this is where it's going to get cool. So I'm going to... This saw wave is now getting pulse width, right? Now, that's with me physically moving it, right? So that's me manually pulse width modulating that. But you also have this ratio, right? Now I'm going to set it just slightly off of 1. See if you can hear that. I'm going to shut the mic off for a second so you get it direct. Now, I'm not modulating anything there. That's just that ratio that's doing that, right? So it's like pulse width modulating this detune, right? And what you can do with that is you can modulate all these functions in here. You also have oscillator feedback there as well. So like if the previous sound wasn't saturated enough, you have a feedback circuit here as well. But I'm not going to get into that right now. Point being is, so you can have your ratio creating that movement on your pulse width, but you can also modulate the depth. And I'm going to do that really quickly. So I'm assigning LFO3 to depth. I'm going to make that unipolar. Now if I take this back to 1, I'm going to open up the filter a bit here. Okay, so as you can see there, like you're getting way outside the traditional pulse width area. You can do those traditional pulse width sounds, but you can get way outside of that area. So I'll put this into a square wave real quick, right? Back at that pulse width. And of course, if I take oscillator 2 out, now we're only at one oscillator now. And now I'm playing with that ratio again. And if you go higher, so you could do some really, really odd stuff with that. Brad, yes, I do. Trust me, this ratio thing, I'll be honest with you, the first time I messed with it, I was like, huh? And then, you know, luckily I was fortunate enough to get to pick their brains directly about it and say, okay. But yeah, it's really cool. So that's just the original mode, though, right? That's just the pulse width original mode, and then you have the squeeze mode that you can do the same sort of stuff. Right? Let's take this a little back this way, and then when you start messing with the ratio of that, oh, I'm getting there, JLN. We're not at the sync yet, trust me. So now, just to hurry up and skip to that because he mentioned it, I'm going to, you know, and then there's the pulse width AWM, which is a whole other thing, which, in my opinion, like, I kind of was like, shouldn't it be called a type of FM? And then, or wave folding, and yeah, it's technically it's a type of like sectional FM, but that's a whole nother story for another time. So the Oscillator Sync will let you do something kind of similar. So the Oscillator Sync, oh, here we go. Glenn Darcy's in here talking science. So with the Oscillator Sync, you can do some really interesting stuff, right? So this is a feature that's also pretty similarly on the Ultranova, right? Now watch when we play with the ratio on this. So for this one, I'm actually gonna drop that modulation amount way back because it doesn't need to be that extreme. So we'll bring this ratio back to a 1. And if you use shift, you can snap right to these harmonic ratios. And what I like doing is you can take it way up into like these aliasing areas, and then play with the wet dry amount. That's the other thing to remember is with all of this stuff, you can still play with wet dry amount. So like you can blend in how much of that ridiculousness you want. And then on the second mutant, then you can get back to that regular pulse width here. Okay, and then lastly, I'll just quickly do this because I was asked earlier in the stream, so why not? I can be nice. I'm actually going to modulate the time of this a little bit because why not? One last quick trick because I want to. We'll use LFO5. One last quick trick because I was a little bit upset because I found the reason why some of my YouTube feeds were uploading in mono. So that won't be happening anymore, luckily. But yeah, I did figure that out. So I'm quite happy about not having to deal with that anymore. Okay, so I like that. That's very fun for me. I'm in love with this synthesizer, I can't lie. Yeah, so there was just some talk in a thread where people were asking about bass stuff, so that's why I decided I would do this this live feed, which is very risky, I might add, for a synthesizer that's not out, for someone to do a live feed and compare it against other synthesizers and be open in this way. I hope people appreciate because it's really not all that common, to be honest with you. So Sweeter Than Anything is asking about Dimension D chorus and all that kind of thing. I did do an effects exploration. It was pretty like I don't know. It was what it was. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't super musical. It was more about exactly how the effects sound and affect. Like I'm trying to give those of us who are synthesists like the raw information. You know what I mean? Like distill it in that way, and then you guys can say, okay, this is how I would apply that, this, that, and the third. So, but yeah, there's definitely some great things in here. I didn't even get into the EQ. I was gonna show how you can do EQ. Like if you bump the EQ about 1.3 dB, and then right now it's completely dry, so I wasn't using it at all. But if you turn that up, it kind of will mimic that same kind of Moog oscillator sound where it has that kind of rounded, thick bottom end. So yeah, there's that, and of course there is chorus in here as well, and it is a stereo chorus. So another really fun trick, and I showed this in the other feed. I'm just doing this really quickly. Is if you hold the chord button, you can stack. You can do a quick unison stack. So 1, 2, 3. So then, yeah, turn the volume down. Of course, you probably want to go dry on that. Very cool. So I like doing that and stacking a couple of the same octave and then like a fifth and maybe even something like an augmented ninth or something like that on there, and you get like these really cool timbres out of it. So yeah, I'll be doing some more videos on it later. Anyway, I should probably go to sleep sometime soon or do something. Yeah. So well, yeah, and like I said, I was kind of exploring this thing myself along with you guys because it's been a long while since I actually turned on my sub Phatty, to be perfectly honest with you. I love that synth. I just haven't turned it on in a while. So, but it's one of those synths that I enjoy it so much because of how simple it is that I thought it would be really fun to just do a comparison like that. And I'm not trying to say that the HydraSynth is this or vice versa or one is better than the other. I'm just comparing them because one, a lot of people have sub Phatties or have had experience with sub Phatties, so it's it's one of those things where like, okay, you're familiar with how that sounds, so you know how this is sounding over YouTube, which may help you relate to how this is sounding over YouTube, because there's compression and all that kind of stuff. So I just thought it was good idea to do it. So if you guys want to join we have a Facebook group, the ASM HydraSynth Facebook group, and if you want to get at me on Instagram at Flux302, I'm always around. So thanks for watching. I really appreciate it, and thanks for Glenn Darcy for showing up in the chat. ASM's in the chat. Islet Instruments is in the chat. If you haven't checked out their SP2400 project and their ChordBot projects, go check that out because that's definitely some cool stuff there as well. And yeah, thanks. Oh, by the way, gently press like and subscribe. That's always nice. Peace.